So with percentages, basically, we need to define what a percentage is. And in maths, percentage is looking at something as 100. Okay, I can express any quantity at all in mass as a percentage. And because 100 is a nice round figure, okay, it's not too big, but it's not too small. So if I apply it to small numbers, all of a sudden they look reasonably big for me to handle easily. And if I apply it to big numbers, they can also bring them down to reasonable numbers. All I have to deal with is between 0 and 1, 0 and 100, and that makes the percentage scale. So for instance, if I'm dealing with a number of 68 or 54 or 32, all of them as percent, it's easier than having 0.004365. For instance, if I'm talking about an individual's contribution to the amount of money in their district, it will be something like $0.00435 or something per something. But when I convert this to percentage, they will simply say someone contributed 2.5% of the total revenue of the community. That makes it very easy for me to put in perspective. And that is the essence of percentages. So, with percentages, what do? We will have a deeper dive into percentages when we are looking at topics like interest, calculating interest rates, compound interest, profit and loss, and so on. But here we simply want to understand what percentage is. So, percentage, as I said, is expressing a quantity on a scale of 0 to 100. So, I have a number 24 out of 60. 60 is not a very standardized number. 100 is a standard number for percentages. So having 24 out of 60, which is also a fraction of 24 over 60, I can express this quantity as a percentage. Then it becomes easy for me to handle. So all what I need to do is multiply that by 100. And once I multiply any fraction by 100, I find the percentage of that quantity. So here, I'll simply use my HCF and simplification to do that. And I'm left with 40. So what I'm actually getting is 40%. Okay, so that is how you express any fraction or any decimal as a percentage. Okay, now you have a decimal 0.025. I really didn't go into this because I was reserving it for that, but let's just look at it. This decimal can be changed to a fraction. And then once that we have the fraction can be changed to a percentage. And it will be easy for me to appreciate this quantity. So first, let's look at 0.025, changing that to a fraction. 0.025. First, I want to count the number of decimal places after the fraction. Okay, this is a decimal. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to look for a number which is 1 followed by the number of zeros that are the same as the decimal places. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that number will be 1,000. That number will be 1,000. So if I want to make this as a fraction, first I count the decimal places after the 0, 3. I go for a number which is 1 followed by the same number of zeros as I counted the decimal places, and it's 3 zeros. So 1, 2, 3. So 1000. Then now I'm going to take this 25 and divide that by 1000. That is how I can express a decimal as a fraction. I just need to pay attention to the decimal places. Now go and look for a number which is 1 followed by however many decimal places you count. And then now pretend as if that decimal number is a whole number. And then divide that by the number that is 1 followed by the number of decimal places that you look. And then you easily convert that to a fraction. So once you have done that, you can then change that to a percentage, express that as a percentage. So 25 over 1000 times 100. Whatever you get will be the percentage. So I'm getting 2.5. Okay, so you can see that 2.5 is a more reasonable number for me to appreciate than 0.025. So 0.025 is actually the same as 2.5%. Okay, and once you convert something to percentage, it becomes easy for you to appreciate the magnitude of that number, or the quantity of that number, more than it being in an awkward fraction or a percentage. And that is what we normally use percentages for in maths. It makes things more relatable, and we should be able to convert any quantity at all, whether decimal, whether fraction, whether whole number, to a percentage. The other thing that we will learn to do with percentages is to determine how you can increase something by a percentage or decrease something by a percentage. So for instance, I come and I tell you, increase $6 by 5%. If I tell you this, increase $6 by 5%, you should be able to do it. If I go to England and I say decrease a boy's pocket money of £30 a week by 30% because they have misbehaved in the past week as complained by their teacher. You should be able to do that. Okay, so let's look at these things. How exactly do we go by this, increasing something by a percentage and decreasing something by a percentage? Now, this is very important. Subsequently, we will be looking at a topic that deals with money. Okay, everyday life. You go to a shop. One shop is offering buy to get a third for free. Another shop is offering 20% discount on that same item. You need to decide who is giving a better value. You should be able to get a basis of increasing or decreasing something by percentage, and then finding the real quantities of fraction and comparing and seeing what offer a better value. And that is how come, if we are very good with maths, we can even make decisions in life that can save us money and give us the best deals in town and give us the best offers. Okay, so we are learning maths not only to pass a maths exam, but when we understand maths very well, we can actually experience a better life by getting better deals, getting making better informed decisions, because we use our knowledge in maths to take a logical approach to something and make sure that we are taking the best possible decision about a situation. So that is it. how do we do this? Increase $6 by 5%. What this means is that your final answer should be more than $5. And I'm going to point out some mistake that people do. Some mistake that people do. So I give you a question: increase $6 by 5%. Some students will start all right. 5% is the same as 5 over 100. And I'm finding 5% of $6. I'm finding 5% of $6. This gives me 30 over 100, which is 0.3. So 5% of $6 is $0.3. Okay. And many students will leave their answer there. But that is not a question. First of all, look at the question critically. Increase $6 by 5%. I'm expecting that your answer will actually be more than $6. So how do you continue from here? The original amount you are told to increase by 5% is 6. And a 5% increment on 6 is 0.3. So you have to bring this 0.3 back to the $6, add it to it, and you are now getting $6.30. Okay, so if you are meant to increase $6 by 5%, you are going to get the same thing. Now try it with a decrease. The only difference is that when we are increasing something by a percentage, we first find the percentage of that original amount and then add it on top of the original amount. When we are to decrease any quantity by a percentage, first we find the percentage of that amount, then we go and subtract that quantity from the original amount. So here, a boy who has misbehaved is having his pocket money reduced by 30%. First, let's find 30% of £30. 30 over 100 times £30. That is £9. Okay. Now, 30% of £30 is £9. But the question is decrease 30%, £30 by 30%. So we have found 30% of that one, and we now have to take a step further and take that from the original amount. So 30 minus 9 is now 21. So if I'm to decrease £30 by 30%, I'm now going to have £21 remaining. So in the following week, the boy who will normally get £30 pocket money for a week will now be getting £21 for the week, so that they will behave properly and then they will come back to getting their usual £30 a week. So that is increasing and decreasing percentage. Now, the other thing that you would want to, the other basis for percentage that you want is expressing one quantity as a percentage of another. Okay, expressing one quantity as a percentage of another. And that can be a little tricky. So let's really pay attention. So look at this. Express £6 as a percentage of £40. Okay, so what can be, let's put this in context. What situation can give rise to this? Maybe you are four friends and you went to do something and you got £40. And then your friends decided that your share of the £40 pounds is 6 pounds. Okay. Then you come home and you are explaining it to your parents and you want to tell them how much percentage of the money that you and your friends got came to you. Okay. So in that situation, you will be expressing the £6 that you got out of the £40 as a percentage. And when you are speaking in terms of percentage, people tend to understand you better. It can help them to instantly know how much portion of a whole you were able to get. So here we have to set up a fraction based on the portion over the whole and then multiply that by 100. As simple as that. So the portion, which is 6, over the whole, which is 40 times 100. So if I tell you express £400 as a percentage of £3,000, take the portion, which is 400, divide it by the whole, which is the 3,000, and multiply that by 100. So this one, we will go this, that, here 2, here 5, here 1, here 3. Multiply this and 15. So 15%. So expressing £6 as a percentage of £40 will leave us 15%. Okay. And you can do it with so many things. Distance, for instance, express 75 centimeters. Express 75 centimeters as a percentage of 2.5 meters. So here we have introduced another problem upon a problem that we are being asked to solve. The problem is that for us to be able to express one quantity as a percentage of another, both quantities ideally must be in the same unit. But as you can see, we have centimeter here and we have meter here. So before we can proceed, we first have to bring them on the same level. Okay, we either change 2.5 meters to centimeters or we change 75 centimeters to meters. Then we will go ahead and use the usual method, the portion over the whole times 100. The portion over the whole times 100. But here, I will leave this for now because we have another topic where we look at metrics. We look at units and metrics. That is another lesson. But for those of you who are already familiar with changing units and metrics, you can go ahead and change it and then find a percentage. So I'm going to leave this for you to try on your own, and you can put your answer in the comment and then explain how you came by your answer briefly for others to benefit. So that is what we can do with percentages. And it can be very varied. For instance, I can ask you to find the percentage of 3 hours in a day, okay, of a day. So 3 hours of 24 hours. What is 3 hours? You can express that in percentage so that when you are talking to your friend, you say that I spent 3 hours on a math lesson on Friday. You can simply say, I spent 12% of my Friday revising maths, okay, or whatever the percentage is. And it makes it easy for people to put things in proper context. Okay, so we will end percentage here. As I said, we will be delving deeper into percentage when we look at topics like profit and loss, interest, calculating interest rates, comparing deals in shop. We will come to that. But for now, I'm bringing the lesson to an end here. We have been looking at fractions decimals and percentages. Still looking at number as a topic. We are covering the basis upon which we will build subsequent um, lessons and get the best possible outcome from our math lesson. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye.